Kum Len and Ablad Gemara. This is Daf Ches, which is the Gemara for the first day of Pesach. We are up to the Gemara in the middle of the page, and the Gemara says here, "V'hakoyin oiches b'gdera." The kohen grabs a hold of her clothes, and we rip it to humiliate her and degrade her. Tanabam we learned. It says in Pasuk, "Upora es reisha ish." You should uncover the hair of the woman. And this is, by the way, we're learning Mark Sotah is the basis for that a woman has to cover her hair mehatayra. And then we just learned the different degrees. If it's das Moshe, das Yehudis, ainly ela reisha. All we know is that you have to expose her hair. Gufa minon. How do you know you also have to expose parts of her body? Tam it says in the pasuk ha'isha, the woman herself. You have to expose part of the woman herself. Imke ma tam paras reisha. If you have to expose the woman herself, then obviously her hair as well. Why did the Torah say paras reisha? Because there are two stages. In addition to exposing your hair by removing your head cover, you also remove the braids. In fact, Rashi and Chumash and Pashas Nosei only mentions the unbraiding your hair, but it's actually two parts. You uncover her hair and you undo her braids. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Im haya liba." Rabbi Yehuda says, however, if she was very pretty and it can entice the kohenim there, then or the people there, then we should not uncover her body. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda is very worried about people's thoughts and lewd thoughts. Remember, Rabbi Yehuda chayish lehir huda. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who's more concerned about people's lewd thoughts than the Tanakam. But the Rabbanan are not concerned. And the problem is, in Gemara Sanhedrin, we learned just the opposite. We learned just the opposite in Gemara Sanhedrin. Talks about skila, and when you toss a person off the second story, the question is, should a person be clothed, not clothed? So the Torah says that you throw him off, and we say him without his clothes. And there's no reason why to think a woman is different, except we have the laws of tznius and shame and so on. So the question is, what exactly with a woman? Is she also undressed, or is she fully dressed, partially dressed? How's it work? The Tanya we learned. So we have an argument there between Rabbi Yehuda and Chamim, and it appears to be exactly the opposite of what they say here. In our Rabbi Yehuda is worried about lewd thoughts, and the Chamim are not. And over there it says, when it comes to a man, you just cover his member in the front and that's it. And when it comes to a woman, you only cover two parts of her and that's it. One in front of her and one behind her, but the rest of the body is naked. Because only one that part is erva, and the rest we don't really care about. So it's only that particular area we have to cover, and the rest we don't care about. So Rabbi Yehuda is not even worried about having lewd thoughts. It's chachamim, I mean. A man could be stoned, should be stoned naked, but the ain't ish niskal, but a woman should not, and probably because of lewd thoughts. Exactly the opposite of what it says over here. Rabbi Yehuda is exactly the opposite of chachamim. But right now we're focusing on Rabbi Yehuda. Rabba wanted her. There's a reason for each one. You know why Rabbi Yehuda over here is very worried about lewd thoughts? Because in case she comes out innocent, she's still around, and then every time people see her, they're going to have thoughts about her and maybe try to act on it. But over there, in the case of skila, we'll never see her again. So therefore, we're not worried about having lewd thoughts. Might come out innocent. The young kohenim will try to chase after her. And taste already come. It's interesting. Why do we emphasize young kohenim and older kohenim? Don't have these kind of thoughts. It's because there were plenty of young kohenim hanging around in the Beis Hamikdash. Hassan over there, her mistalka. She's gone. She's not around. So what if she's not around? But the idea of lewd thoughts can lead you to have attractions to other women. They'll come and antagonize other women or chase other women. Rava said already, Gemidi, we have a rule. The ain yetzer hara shaylik ela b'mesha ein avrois. Only if you actually see them. But since she's gone, you're not going to think about other women. Just like we had also about Rochav, whoever says Rochav and just thinks about her, will have a carry. And the Gemara says only those people who knew her. If you didn't, you won't. Amar Rav says Rav. Rabbi Yehuda, Kasha, you're concerned with the contradiction of Rabbi Yehuda. What about Rabban? Like Kasha doesn't concern you. Elomar Rav says Rav, the Rabbi Yehuda, like Kasha, you're right. Rabbi Yehuda, there's no question like we just answered a minute ago, that there's a difference by the site that if she's innocent, she'll still be around, and that's why we're more concerned. But the Rabban also nami like Kasha. You know why? You know why the Rabban over here say Dafka, that she we're not worried about lewd thoughts and she should be naked, because we want it to act as a as I guess a reminder to people that they should behave sneezik, because even if she's innocent, the fact is that she did not behave in a sneezik way, and she's flirtatious, and therefore we want other women to realize that you shouldn't be this way. Because it says in the pasuk, it says that the nivasru kol hanoshim, that all the women should learn a lesson from here, and that's why. And over there, the fact that this woman there is getting a skila, that in itself is the best reminder, preventative measure that people should therefore behave. We don't need any more than that. What's wrong? We do the two things by skila. Okay, the punishment itself plus the shame and humiliation, the degradation. There's a pasuk. You should love your friend like yourself. So we learn from there. Choose the best possible death, the least painful death. Interesting. One of the Shainim said there was Taisus in Sanhedrin. That as the Ramban says, the Chumash, the mitzvah of is an impossible mitzvah. It's just impossible to love someone like yourself. However, if it's only for a matter of a few minutes, the person is about to die, then it is possible to love someone like yourself. So therefore, what do we learn from choose for them the best possible form of death? So the Chayda Lema did Rab Nachman says we should use the best possible form of death. So by skilla, we therefore say that she should be fully clothed, and Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned. Obviously, he doesn't care about best possible death. Is that possible? So Rab Nachman's law is actually a dispute amongst the Tanaim between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned. He said, "Let her be naked." In my line up. Everyone holds you should give the best possible death. The question is, what is the best possible death? You have shame versus pain. What's worse, shame or pain? And that is the argument here between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda. Over here, this is what the argument is. Marasava, one of them holds that a person is more worried about shame. So the woman is more worried about shame, and therefore we should be clothed. Mitzayre de gufe, much more than the pain, because when you remove the clothing, you die much quicker. If you were fully clothed, it acts as a buffer and prolongs the pain. So it's a question of pain versus shame. The one who says that it's better they should be fully clothed is because shame is more hurtful than pain, and therefore they'd rather be fully clothed, and that's a chachamim. And Rabbi Yehuda says no, pain is worse, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda says that no, that they should be undressed so that they can die painlessly. So they both agree you have to give the best possible death, but that in itself is a question: which is the best possible death? Pain is worse than shame. So the Chachamim say that shame is worse than pain. Actually, in the Gemara about Basa, we have a big argument when two people come to you. So somebody has no food, they say they're starving, the other one is undressed. Who should you more readily support without having to do much investigation? And the question is, again, shame and pain. But over here, when we're talking about a woman, the Chachamim say when it comes to a woman, shame is far I guess worse than pain, and for a woman it may be different than a man, and therefore it has to be fully clothed. Says the Gemara, she's dressed in white. We learned but if it's black actually suits her better than wear ugly clothing. In other words, the idea again is to degrade her. Golden jewelry on her, shita, of course. We're trying to go out of our way to degrade her, to humiliate her. Honey, nobody got to tell me to take off her jewelry. So more no. I would have thought Bahani, East of Zion fair. On the contrary, if you humiliate her in every other way, and then she wears this precious jewelry, it looks even worse. Kedamnisha is a famous saying by people, Shaliach, to let her walk around, let this person walk around naked. The Sayamiyat Masani is wearing shoes, which looks quite ridiculous. No, we remove all the jewelry. And afterwards, maybe chevel hamitzi, bring this rope. This rope that we bring, mahu sheyakiv b'seita. This is something that really, that is, if we don't have it, we delay it, the seita, until we find this particular kind of rope, which comes from a palm tree. And is the reason if the primary reason is because we don't want the clothes to fall off, then if you don't have this particular rope, use another rope. A small belt is sufficient. We're going to learn soon that everything is a measure for a measure. Everything is like midah k'neged midah. Because she behaved in this particular way, that's why she gets this particular punishment. So we said because she wore this fancy belt. Maybe to bring another kind of a belt. The we tie above her bosom. Therefore, it's vital, it's a critical part of the whole thing. Amalei, to Surah, we learned the question is really how much effort should you put in to find this Chevel HaMitzri? Amalek, so we learned. You bring this Egyptian rope. You tie it above her bosom. Her clothing should not fall off. So it seems that is an important reason, and therefore we want that make an effort to obtain it. Anybody wants to witness what's happening can. So I don't understand. You contradict yourself. You say anybody wants to attend can, which sound like anybody, including men. Alma, Loishna, Gabri, Loishna, Noshi, no matter men or women, they can all attend. And the Bahadaton, you call Hanoshim with Todesli, Loishna, Noshim, and Noshim, all the women can, but not men. Amar Abaye, so what's going on? Men can or can't? Amar Abaye, Taste actually brings from Sotah that says clearly that the kohenim actually they put a partition so they shouldn't see, and even the kohen who was involved turned his head around so he shouldn't witness. But our Gemara doesn't say that. Amar Abaye says Targum, you're right. Say Anoshim, only women and not the men should see. In other words, Abaye follows that opinion that says that maybe they put a partition and the men didn't see at all. How can you tell me that it's only women? He says anybody who wants to see can see. It's optional if you want to see or not. No different men or women. Of the noshim chayab is what I said, but women are different than men. They actually have an obligation to see, to learn a lesson. It says that they should look so that they can learn what happens when you're very flirtatious. The reason why Bai doesn't like Rabba's shot is because the same thing. It says the Mishnah Mutaris, and Rabba is interpreting Mutaris as if they're obligated. So each one has a difficulty with their interpretation, and that's why they're arguing. Said the next Mishnah, the very way that you behave, that is how that's the retribution, very similar to that. He koshes Atzma she prepares so therefore we humiliate her. He goes as Atzma she revealed herself to do an Aveda, she got undressed, the Yerech is Chilbaveda, so then we reveal how Veda. It started with the thigh, and then that's when the Veda started. And afterwards the stomach when he lied on top of her. Therefore, to look first the thigh is sort of implodes, and then the stomach swells. The rest of the body also does not escape punishment. Amar Rabbi Yezebel says, I forgot, even though we had this Merksuvas, even though the Midah Betela, the Midah Lebatel, even though Bezdin no longer punishes people, but the way the Bezdin punished doesn't stop. So what do you mean? Amar Rabbi Yezebel, Rabbi Yezebel is not saying Amar Rabbi Yezebel, the Gemara is not saying Rabbi Yezebel elsewhere, and so to Rabbi Chia, Miyayim Shechara Beis HaMikdash, from the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Even though there's no longer Sanhedrin, Arba Mrs. Lebatel. The 4 different kinds of punishment was not cancelled. So but it was cancelled. Aladin Arba Mrs. Lebatel. Even though we, the Yonim, cannot implement any of these capital punishments, but the Eibishter makes it happen. Misha Chayes kill somebody deserves to be stoned. I know from the gag falls off the roof, because when you get stoned, the first thing they toss you off. An animal tramples all over you, like the stones that they throw on you. And so on, and also the animal sort of picks you up, pushes you to the ground. So similar to skila. To be burnt, it falls into fire, or you get poisoned from a venomous snake, which sort of burns inside you. If you decapitation, is given over to the government, which that's their form of punishment. At least in Boin, a robbers come and attack you, and they do the same thing. If somebody is to be strangled, drowns in the ocean, cannot breathe, dies of something like diphtheria or something, which you choke. Now, Tais already points out it didn't only happen after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Even in the times of Beis HaMikdash, if somebody committed a sin, there were no witnesses, or even there were witnesses, there's no warning. We don't punish you, but Eibishter would punish you as well. But after Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, in all cases, this is what happens. A fascinating thing, Tais asks, we had more Makkahs there. Shlokha says that if somebody killed somebody deliberately, there were no witnesses, the next time the person. One person goes up on the ladder and the other person is down on the ladder. So the person who killed deliberately is sitting under a ladder. Another person who killed someone by mistake, didn't end up running to exile, is walking up the ladder. He falls down, and he kills the person on the bottom. So the person, that's a just desert. So now he has to go to Golos. Another one got killed. Now Locheda asks a question: Isn't that skila? Isn't that skila? And Locheda, if you kill somebody, you deserve not skila, but cherev. So how is that an exact punishment? How is that an accurate punishment? So Tosha says that in chenek itself, you sort of, I don't know, if you throw something on your friend, and when you kill the person, you throw something on the friend, and therefore this is like similar to that when the person falls down on you. But what's interesting in Tosha Mishan says that when it says the person was climbing up the ladder and fell down, it's talking about he had a sword in his hand. So when he fell down, the sword decapitated the person on the bottom. Fascinating. Taking about a further, Rebbe Omer or a mayor says, how do you know that you get exact punishment based on what you behave? It says in Pasuk, so in the full measure, you'll send away with the same measure. Only if it's a large sin, like a saw. Which is trei kav. A saw has 6 kavin. I know if it's half a saw, not such a big avera. Or chatzi tirka, 1.5 kavin, or kav, or a kav itself, or a chatzi kav, half of a kav, or a quarter of a kav, of a chatzi reiva, or an eighth of a kav, or tumen, half of that, or uchla, half of that. Menayin, how do you know in all of these cases that also we give exact punishment? It says in Pasuk, every measure, soyan, you'll get the measure, the equal measure, barash, with noise. I know that even if it's smaller than that they don't just get ignored, but they sort of, it's an aggregate and eventually get punished. Every single pruta gets, combined with a larger cheshbon. It says in Pasuk, achas, that achas le'achas, one by one, we accumulate to come with a final number. The way she behaved, that's how we punish her. She stood by the doorway to be noticed by others. That's why she stands in Sha'nikner, and it's visible to everybody her shame. He partially said, she wore his nice kerchiefs on her head. We take a hat off her head. We place it under her feet. He she beautified herself, therefore therefore her face becomes all pale. He she painted her eyes, both her eyes pop out. He side her, she went and braided her hair, unbraided her hair. He had beds, but she was motioning with a finger indicating for him to come over. His nails fell off. He so she put on a beautiful belt to be attractive. Maybe the crane brings an Egyptian rope. The and ties it above her bosom. He pushed the light as she stretched out, extended her thigh. That's why the thigh falls off. He keep she accepted for his stomach swell. She enticed him by feeding him all kinds of sweets. What kind of carbon is it? Barley, but animal fodder. She gave him to drink beautiful wine because his mishabach with nice cups. Therefore, this bitter water that she drinks, the water of the Sotah, is in a clay cup. He also says discreetly, Yeshiva says Elyon, some upon in the Eberster who sits in says Elyon, he assessed her and he focused on her if he was ready. Somebody who wants to be promiscuous is waiting for Doc. Someone's lustful, wait for Doc. She said, the person says, I don't want anyone to see me. Maybe she makes it sure that everybody sees. He also says, she did in this place. The Eibusher reveals them. It says, that they try to do something hateful in the dark, and yet that evil will be displayed for everybody. Now the question is, why do you need all the psukim? Once we already learned the concept of the that there's a cumulative effect, and they get punished. Why do you need that every single measure gets punished with noise? To tell you that it's the exact same measure. So the first passage, we wouldn't know that you get punished measure for measure. We know for measure for measure with a loud noise. When that other passage that says that when you reach this big measure, great measure, sasa, The neighbor should contend with that. If you have chilul about Papa, this comes to teach you actually what chilul the son of Papa said. Chilul about Papa. Hashem does not punish a nation for their unjust behavior until he's ready to destroy the nation entirely. It says when he reaches his full measure, that's when he gets rid of it. Ein is not so. Rava said shloisha kaisis. Rava said the 3 cups who amudas b'mitzrayim. That it says by the Sar Hamashkim and Parshas Miketz in his dream. 3 times it says Kos Pari. Lama, why? These are 3 cups of punishment for Mitzrayim. So there are 3 different times that they were punished. And this is the question. Once they drank time Moshe, Egyptians were punished. The time when Eden ran to Mitzrayim, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed him. And the other one is when Mashiach will come and they'll be punished again. So therefore, what he told me they should get rid of a whole nation. Here we see that with 3 different punishments. You tell me that they're no longer here. These are no longer the same Egyptians, and the different Egyptians are getting punished. It can be. For Tanya, we learned Binyamin Ger HaMitzri, that Binyamin, who was an Egyptian convert, was my friend, from Rabbi Akiva's students. Omar and said Binyamin Ger HaMitzri, and Binyamin Ger HaMitzri would say the following. We know by Mitzri, the 3rd generation, they can come back to join the Jewish nation. So he said, Ani Mitzri edition, I am the 1st generation Egyptian. The Nasati Mitzri Shayim, I married the 1st generation Egyptian. Asi Libni Mitzri Shnia, I will marry off to my son, a 2nd generation Mitzris, in order, Kadeshi, Ben Bini, my grandson, Mutu Lavibakol, should be able to rejoin the Jewish nation. Because if my son, who's a Shani, marries an Egyptian convert, Rishon, their child will be, whichever is a worse degree, will be also considered the 2nd generation, cannot rejoin the nation. So the Egyptians were punished. But this is what you should learn. Hashem does not punish a king until it's time to destroy him. It says, when it reaches the full measure, he sends away. The long cases over here, they all have a discussion about the Egyptians. Rashi brings here that the scepter of Akiva told him you're wrong, because Sancherib came and mixed the whole world around, and therefore you're actually allowed to marry. Egyptians are allowed to marry as well. Taisa brings an opinion here that no, Egyptians are an exception to everybody else, that the Egyptians you cannot marry, everybody else you can marry. And or maybe you can say that not that they were completely destroyed, that they moved about and there are a few Egyptians here, a few other people there. And then the Minchas Chinuch has a whole discussion that we have a concept of going after majority when it comes to goyim or not. And so on. Others say for 40 years they left the country, but then they came back. Others have a discussion about not going back to the land of Mitzrayim, or Hashem being allowed to go back. If today the Egyptians are no longer the same Egyptians, does that Issa still apply? Okay, this ends the sugya of the first day of Pesach.